Veronica once said that what she loved most about me was my gentle and steady personality. She said I seemed to have no temper, never impatient, always emotionally stable. No matter how angry or irritable she became, as long as she saw me, she would calm down. But later, she cheated. Older is good, but after being together for too long, life just becomes bland, like plain boiled water. She told her friend, the younger ones are more interesting, even their temper feels lively and kind of cute. Chapter 1. The first time I noticed something off about Veronica was when I accidentally saw that there was a small Optimus Prime charm hanging from her phone. That night, Veronica walked in while talking on the phone. Hearing the sound, I looked up just in time to see her wink at me as she entered. I froze for a moment, because I saw that beneath the phone pressed to her ear, there was a dangling Optimus Prime keychain. From what I knew about Veronica, she would never hang decorations on her phone. In her eyes, that kind of thing was pretentious and childish. I remembered that once, I bought us matching couple outfits. Her shirt had a small Ultraman embroidery on it, and she complained about it for a long time. She even said she only wore it out of consideration for me. That piece of clothing was completely not her style. But now, this Optimus Prime charm, something that was completely not her style, was hanging from her phone. And ever since we met, all these years, she had never hung anything on her phone before. After finishing her call, Veronica was about to come over and hug me, but then she noticed I was staring at her phone. "What's that?" I asked. "Oh, at lunch I was treating a client at a restaurant. The waiter used my phone to leave a review, and then gave me this little thing. They just tied it onto my phone. I got busy in the afternoon and forgot to take it off." Her tone was casual. There was nothing unusual in it. As she spoke, she even removed the charm and tossed it straight into the trash, but I knew she was lying. Veronica didn't even have those group deal or review apps on her phone. She found them troublesome and couldn't be bothered to use them. In her words, "Do I look that bored? All that just to save a few bucks." Whenever she went out to eat, she always paid directly. Not to mention when she was hosting a client, the chance of her using some app to order discounted meals was basically zero. Chapter 2. I had already eaten dinner outside, so Veronica called a familiar restaurant and had them deliver 3 dishes and a soup. While she was eating, I stood up. "I'm going downstairs to buy some fruit. Get some oranges. I feel like having some," she said, staring at her phone without even looking up. "Okay." I lifted the trash bag out of the bin. "Wait," she stopped me. "Just leave the trash there. I'll throw it out later when I'm done eating." "No need. It's just on the way." I carried the trash out. When I got downstairs, I threw the bag into the large garbage bin. Then I walked a few steps away and found a spot behind a dense patch of bushes, where I stood quietly waiting. Before long, I saw Veronica. She came out from the building entrance, glanced around, then hurried toward the trash bin. Standing by it, she immediately spotted the bag I had just thrown away. She visibly let out a sigh of relief and reached in to pull it out. Opening the bag, she rummaged through it briefly, then gently picked up the Optimus Prime charm with her fingertips. She stared at the little charm, as if thinking of someone interesting, a faint smile in her eyes. After a moment, she slipped the charm into her pocket and walked back the way she came, clearly in a good mood. Chapter 3. I let out a self-mocking smile. A man's intuition really is reliable. At this moment, all my suspicions had become reality. Veronica, the one who had chased me for years, the one who always said she would love me forever, the one everyone in the world believed would be completely devoted to me. Her heart had begun to drift. As for whether she had physically cheated, that was something I still needed to uncover. Chapter 4. That night, I said nothing and asked nothing. Just like usual, I washed up and lay down in bed. When I turned off the lights, Veronica was still on her phone. She was typing quickly, as if she were constantly replying to someone's messages. That guy, she must really like him. Every time she replied or took a call, she unconsciously smiled. Lying there with my eyes closed, I suddenly realized Veronica hadn't held me while sleeping for a long time. Before, every night, she would cling to me like an octopus, wrapping herself tightly around me. She used to act spoiled and say she couldn't fall asleep without holding me. Now that I think about it, women's sweet talk really comes effortlessly. In the darkness, I thought quietly for a long time about my past with Veronica and our future, until I heard the steady breathing beside me. Veronica had fallen asleep. I slowly sat up and stretched out my arm, picking up her phone from beside her pillow. Her phone password was my birthday, and she had even registered my fingerprint. Back then, when she insisted on adding my fingerprint, I had refused. I believed that between people, there should still be a certain level of privacy. Northwest matter how close the relationship is, but Veronica wouldn't take no for an answer. She insisted that she had no secrets from me. She held my index finger and personally registered it into her phone. Maybe back then, she truly meant it. It's just that she probably didn't realize people's hearts can change. She changed so quickly, starting to take an interest in another man. If she had known this day would come, she probably wouldn't have given me her password. Chapter 5. I opened Veronica's WeChat. At the very top was a profile picture of the Hulk. I tapped into it, and the screen was filled with dense chat messages, all from within the past hour. Everything from before that was gone. Clearly, Veronica was very cautious. She deleted their messages after every conversation. She probably thought I was already asleep just now, so she hadn't deleted the latest chat yet. The two of them could really talk. In just over an hour, they had chatted as much as I usually did with Veronica in an entire week. The guy's name was Elias. It sounded somewhat familiar. They talked about how he had secretly glanced at Veronica a few times at work, then moved on to how terrible the lunch they ordered was. From the rainy weather lately, to a rock band they both liked. They talked about everything. I guess, this is what being in love looks like. An endless desire to share. Because, back then, Veronica and I used to be like this too. Although between us, she talked more and I talked less. But at that time, our chat history felt endless. You could scroll forever and never reach the end. Now, in her chats with Elias, even though he talked more, Veronica responded to every single message. She paid attention to his feelings, never letting his words fall flat or go unanswered. The guy was like a chirping little bird, endlessly talkative. One moment complaining that taking transport in the rain was troublesome, that walking to the subway with an umbrella would soak his shoes. The next moment saying he hadn't had much of an appetite lately and had lost 3 pounds in a month. Then talking about how that band was going on tour, but the tickets were too expensive. Veronica immediately booked him a private car for a whole month. Elias sent a surprised emoji. The driver's not even you. I want to ride in your car to work. Veronica replied, you wish I'd be your driver, dream on. Elias sent an angry emoji. Veronica replied with a pat on the head emoji. Be good. I'll take you out for something nice tomorrow at lunch. You can't lose any more weight, I'd feel bad. Chapter 6. I placed Veronica's phone back where it was. In the darkness, I quietly thought, Elias, where had I heard that name before? I tapped on his profile picture, confirming that I had never seen this person before. From the chat content, he worked at Veronica's company. Veronica's company was co-founded with her college roommate. It wasn't large, and I knew most of the people there. Last year, when I attended their annual party, I hadn't seen any unfamiliar faces, so he must have been hired this year, a new hire. Then I remembered, at the beginning of the year, Veronica had mentioned that several interns had joined the company. She said those interns were recommended by her college advisor. They were basically just there to go through the motions and get an internship certificate stamped. She said she had a good relationship with that advisor and couldn't refuse. Not long after, I heard her complain about it unintentionally. She said that among those interns, there was a troublemaker, a Gen Z boy. That boy would leave work right on time every evening, not staying even a minute longer. Even if he was just about to finish his work, he would still leave without hesitation. He said the happiest moment for a working person was getting off work. Not only did he refuse to work overtime himself, he also encouraged the others not to do overtime. He claimed that overtime was basically selling your life to make money for capitalists. Once, during a project crunch, the whole company worked overtime over the weekend, except for a few interns. To speed things up, the project leader called each intern, asking them to come help, promising overtime pay. Everyone else agreed, except for that boy. He flat out refused, saying he would only come if they paid him 5 times the overtime rate. It left the team leader completely stunned. Veronica had been quite displeased with that boy at the time. Otherwise she wouldn't have brought him up at home. She usually didn't like talking about work at home. She believed home should be a warm and pleasant place, and work matters should stay outside. I remember, while eating, she said angrily, that Elias is ridiculous. He's openly preaching in the office that their Gen Z generation is here to fix the workplace. Now I remembered. Yes, that boy was Elias. Chapter 7. I remembered Veronica once saying that she had harshly scolded Elias at the company. She had even made him cry. That, I believed. Veronica had always had a bad temper. When she got angry, she didn't care whether you were a man or a woman. She would lash out equally at everyone. But she didn't fire him. She said it was because of her advisor's favor that she allowed them to stay. If it were the old me, I would have kicked them all out already. Who cares whose recommendation it was? Looks like after entering society, I've become much more gentle. Of course, it's also thanks to you, my husband. Your good temper rubbed off on me. Anyway, it's just a 3-month internship. I'll just tolerate it for now. That was what she said back then. I didn't know how that same Elias, the one she once found so annoying, was still working at her company now. Had he left after the internship and come back after graduating? Or had he never left at all, staying on until now? But no matter what, Veronica's attitude toward him had changed. From someone she once found irritating, to someone who had now become her little ray of sunshine. In her WeChat, her remark for Elias was simply, "Little sunshine." Chapter 8. The next morning, Veronica left for work. 5 minutes later, I followed her out. I hailed a taxi and quietly trailed behind her car. After graduating from my master's program, I first worked at a big corporation for a few years, grinding like a corporate slave and building up some clients before quitting to work for myself. Now, I'm a freelance illustrator. I earn more than before, and my time is flexible. I remember, back then, it was Veronica who encouraged me to quit. She said that even if I couldn't make money, she would support me. Fortunately, I've done fairly well. I've gained some recognition in the industry and published 2 illustration books that sold quite well. Most importantly, the money I've earned has given me enough confidence. Even if I were alone, I could still live well, thankfully. Even when my relationship with Veronica was at its best, I never relied on her sweet talk or expected her to support me. 2 years ago, when her career began to take off, she was already capable of giving me a comfortable life. But not for a single day did I stop drawing or working. Otherwise, without any income, I would be completely at a disadvantage today. Luckily, I've never thought about depending on anyone to live. Veronica's car didn't go straight to the company. Instead, it stopped in front of a trendy dessert shop. This dessert shop had just opened recently, with a lot of hype online. Even in the morning, there was already a queue. Wearing a stunning red dress, Veronica stood among a crowd of young men and women, looking somewhat out of place. Her striking appearance drew frequent glances from the men nearby. I gave the driver a generous tip and asked him to park in a good spot near the shop. From inside the car, I could clearly see everything Veronica was doing. While waiting in line, Veronica took out the Optimus Prime charm from her pocket and reattached it to her phone. She smiled at her screen as she typed. The little Optimus Prime figure swayed gently. 25 minutes later, Veronica finally got the dessert she wanted, carrying a beautifully made strawberry mousse. She got back into her car and continued toward the company. Chapter 9. I sat in the cafe downstairs from Veronica's company for the entire morning. From there, I could see the elevator area. Thankfully, they didn't disappoint me. I hadn't waited in vain. At noon, the 2 of them walked out of the elevator together. This was the first time I saw Elias in person. He looked just like in his photo, bright, handsome, with clear skin and red lips. He really did have that youthful energy. With them was also Veronica's business partner, her former roommate, Valentina. At the entrance of the building, Valentina winked at Veronica. Then she waved and walked off in another direction. The whole time, Elias had his arm wrapped around Veronica's. It seemed their relationship was no longer a secret within the company. I followed behind them at a distance and watched as they entered a restaurant in the neighboring building. The 2 of them were quite bold, choosing a seat right by the floor-to-ceiling windows, completely unafraid of being seen. Standing outside the restaurant, I could clearly see their interactions through the glass. Instead of sitting across from each other, they sat closely side by side. While waiting for their food, Elias leaned against Veronica's shoulder. He opened his phone and showed her something. The 2 of them leaned together, shoulder to shoulder, head to head, looking at the same screen. Veronica said something, and Elias's eyes lit up. He excitedly held her face and kissed her. Just as his lips left hers, Veronica grabbed his head and kissed him back fiercely. When the waiter came to serve the dishes, they kept their heads down, not daring to look at them. I had never seen Veronica like this before. So bold, so unrestrained, so openly affectionate in public, completely disregarding others' eyes. As for Elias, he nestled obediently in her arms, letting her kiss him with that same intensity. Chapter 10. I thought, if it were me, I would have pushed Veronica away immediately. I have a calm personality and don't like drawing attention, especially in public. I don't want to become the center of attention. Back when Veronica and I were deeply in love, it wasn't like she hadn't tried to pull me into passionate kisses outside, but every time, I would shyly push her away. I didn't want to become the subject of other people's whispers and stares. Veronica had always indulged me, never refusing any of my requests. After I expressed my resistance a few times, she stopped kissing me in public. She would always say helplessly, "Honey, why are you so shy?" Whenever we went out together, at most we would just hold hands. At this moment, looking at the wildness and delight in Veronica's eyes, it was obvious she was enjoying it. She had always been like this, never caring about others' opinions, acting freely and boldly. I suppose this is her truest self. When she was with me, she had been suppressing her real nature. For me, she had forced herself to behave properly and restrain herself. Perhaps, deep down, she also felt wronged. And so, she betrayed our marriage. Maybe, to her, it didn't even count as betrayal. Veronica had always been untamed, nothing could bind her. If she felt uncomfortable, she would simply break free. Cheating, to her, was just acting on impulse, not something she would even consider betrayal. Chapter 11. After lunch, the 2 of them returned to the company hand in hand. I continued sitting in the cafe. By evening, They came out of the elevator together again. I watched them walk to the plaza at the entrance of the building and followed behind. Standing behind a large pillar, I could clearly hear their conversation. Vero, just walk me home. Okay, just this once. Elias tugged on Veronica's arm. Acting spoiled. You've never sent me home before. Be good. Veronica tapped his head, her tone leaving no room for argument. All right, Elias bit his lip, shoulders drooping as he walked toward the roadside, looking pitiful. He looked like an abandoned puppy. Veronica watched his back for a few seconds, then suddenly called out, Elias. The boy turned around, confusion in his eyes. Wait here for me. She threw out those words and turned to leave. It seemed like it took him a second to process it. His eyes suddenly lit up. He rushed over excitedly, hugging Veronica and clinging onto her like a monkey. Vero, you're going to take me home, right? He gave her a quick kiss. Vero, you're the best. Get down. Wait here. I'm going to get the car. No, I'll go with you to the parking garage. Chapter 12. When we first got married, Veronica had promised that as long as she didn't have overtime work, she would come home every evening to have dinner with me. She said she wanted to leave early and return early, work well, and spend time with me, be a devoted wife. Over the years, she had kept that promise. Unless she had overtime or business trips, she would come home right after work without exception. She got off at 5:30, and she was usually home before 6:40. Today, she was going to drive another man home. I silently followed them to the parking garage and watched as she opened the passenger door for Elias and let him sit in. The car started and sped away. I went home alone. At 6:30, Veronica called me. Honey, I still have some work to finish. I'll be working late tonight, so don't wait for me for dinner. Just order takeout. I'll bring you your favorite braised snacks when I get back. Love you. Sitting on the couch, I stared at the clock on the wall. By 8, Veronica still hadn't come back. This was the first time since our marriage that she hadn't worked overtime, yet still didn't come home on time. And she lied to me. Her breaking routine was all because of another man. Breaking routine is often the beginning of falling for someone because you can no longer stay rational. Veronica's heart had started to shift. At 8:30, just as I was about to call her, I heard movement at the door. Honey, I'm back. Veronica placed a bag on the table. What did you eat tonight? I brought your favorite braised snacks. Hurry and have some. Where did you go? I looked up. Didn't I say overtime? Really? I looked at her suspiciously. How would I dare lie to you? She laughed. That'd be like asking for trouble. Give me your phone. Surprise inspection. I held out my hand and stared at her. Let's see if you're lying. Honey, I'm so touched. This is the first time you've ever checked my phone. It means you're starting to care more about me. Veronica took out her phone and placed it in my palm. I never knew she could act this well. She had clearly done something that betrayed me, yet there wasn't a trace of it on her face. I looked at the phone in my hand. The Optimus Prime charm was gone. It seemed she had taken it off before coming home. I unlocked the phone with my fingerprint. Every trace of Elias in WeChat had been completely deleted. Even his name was gone from the contacts. Here, I tossed the phone back to her. I guess you passed the inspection. Of course I did. Veronica caught the phone. You're like Sherlock Holmes. No matter what I do, I can't escape your deduction. Chapter 13. Late at night, after Veronica fell asleep, I picked up her phone again. I opened WeChat, clean and empty. Before going to sleep, I had clearly seen Veronica still messaging someone. From the smile on her face, it had to be Elias. It seemed she had deleted the chat history before sleeping. She had become even more cautious. Just as I was about to put the phone back, it vibrated in my hand. A new message had arrived. I opened WeChat and saw that familiar Hulk profile at the top. It was Elias. Vero, you're so annoying. You promised at lunch you'd go to the concert with me, and now you've changed your mind. I'm mad, the kind that can't be soothed. I marked the message as unread again and put the phone back. A concert. I remembered how, at lunch, Elias had excitedly hugged Veronica and kissed her. That must have been when she promised to go to the concert with him. But why had she changed her mind? I recalled that in their chat yesterday, they had mentioned a rock band they both liked. It seemed that band was coming to the city soon for a concert. I took out my phone and searched for the band's name. Sure enough, their concert was scheduled for next Saturday. The stadium was only a 30-minute drive from our home. I checked the date again. No wonder. That day was my birthday. Maybe when Veronica agreed at lunch, she hadn't realized the concert date was my birthday. Later that night, she remembered and changed her mind, which made Elias angry. Between Elias and me, she chose me. Should I feel touched? Chapter 14. I went down to the parking garage, opening the car door. I checked inside. Everything was spotless. There wasn't a single trace left behind. I turned on the dashcam, but all of tonight's recordings had been deleted. She really did things thoroughly. I closed the door and turned to head back home. Chapter 15. The next evening, I regretfully told Veronica that I had to go to the South next week to attend an art exhibition. This exhibition had invited me before, but I had declined it. Veronica didn't know about that. It just happens to be on my birthday. Kind of a shame I can't spend it with you, I said, sounding a little down. It's okay, honey. When you get back, I'll make it up to you. Veronica comforted me, but in her eyes, I caught a hint of excitement. A woman whose heart had already shifted. I no longer cared to keep her, even if she was once the person I loved. So you can't go to the concert together? Huh? Then I'll make it happen for you. You like cheating? Then I'll give you a push, so you can enjoy it to the fullest. Chapter 16. On the day of my business trip, Veronica drove me to the airport. The moment she left, I turned around and walked right out of the airport. I went back near our neighborhood and checked into a hotel. For the next couple of days, I just stayed there and rested. As for following Veronica and Elias myself, I couldn't even be bothered anymore. I hired a private investigator instead. They didn't disappoint. Those two were openly dating, stuck to each other constantly, along with the photos and videos I had taken the first time I saw them having lunch. I now had plenty of evidence of Veronica cheating. Still, Veronica had at least some sense of boundaries. She hadn't brought Elias back home. That night, she sat on the living room sofa, calling her close friend Valentina. Maybe she had been drinking, because her tone was even more uninhibited than usual. I'm telling you, being with a younger guy, it's incredible, Valentina replied. I'd advise you to take it easy. You two are way too obvious at the company right now. So many people there know Walter. Aren't you afraid someone might let it slip to him? Veronica looked unconcerned. If he finds out, then he finds out. What? Are you serious? Isn't this just for fun? Don't forget how much effort you put into chasing Walter back then. He's not the kind of person who tolerates betrayal. If he really finds out, you two are definitely over. Can you bear that? Veronica actually thought for a moment. Honestly, I can't. Then why are you still playing with fire? I can't bear to leave Walter. I still love him. And I know clearly that he still loves me too. He wouldn't want to leave me either. If you don't want a divorce, then I suggest you stop while you can. Before Walter finds out, get rid of that guy. After a while, maybe. I mean, Elias isn't even some drop-dead gorgeous guy. What's so hard to let go of? Besides, he's vain, shallow, and kind of bratty. What exactly do you see in him? Veronica sighed. You don't understand. Older is good, but after being together for too long, life just becomes bland, like plain boiled water. She let out a soft laugh. Younger guys are more interesting, even their temper feels lively and cute. You, Valentina clicked her tongue. You really don't appreciate what you have. Anyway, as your friend, I've said everything I should. You're an adult, you know what you're doing. Take responsibility for your choices. Don't worry, I'm not getting a divorce, Veronica said as she hung up. Chapter 17. Through the camera app on my phone, I heard Veronica's entire call clearly. After listening, I saved the video. The camera in our living room had been broken for a long time. Veronica and I had planned to replace it, but since it wasn't urgent, we never got around to it. Before pretending to go on this business trip, I had already bought a new camera and installed it, without telling Veronica. Originally, it was just in case, if she brought Elias home, I could gather more evidence. Veronica still didn't understand me. Yes, I still loved her. When I discovered her cheating, I didn't cry or make a scene, not because I didn't care, but because I'm naturally rational and not someone who expresses emotions outwardly. But that doesn't mean I wasn't hurt. I would still hide under the covers at night and cry quietly. However, no matter how heartbroken I was, I had to get a divorce. When it comes to marriage, I have boundaries. Cheating is something I can never tolerate, and never forgive. Even if I still had lingering feelings for her, they couldn't outweigh my principles. I loved her, but I loved myself more. I couldn't allow myself to keep getting hurt in a broken relationship. At any time, the most important thing is to protect yourself. Chapter 18. On the day of the concert, I went to the venue. I stood diagonally behind the two of them. I found Elias's phone number and traced it to one of his social media accounts online. He had posted his concert tickets there. Based on their seat numbers, I bought a ticket at a high price. From my position, I could clearly see their interactions without being noticed. Throughout the entire concert, they acted just like a couple deeply in love, holding hands while singing, kissing when they got excited. Oh, and they were even wearing matching couple outfits. Today was my birthday. I had thought that, at the very least, Veronica would put on a show, call or text me to wish me a happy birthday, but she didn't. By the time the concert ended, I watched as they entered a hotel. It was already past midnight. Maybe they had too much fun. Veronica forgot my birthday entirely. Chapter 19. I booked a room in the same hotel where they stayed. Strangely, despite having suffered from insomnia for days, I slept exceptionally well that night. Maybe it was because everything was about to come to an end. The tension I had been carrying could finally be released. Early in the morning, My alarm went off. After washing up, it wasn't even 6 yet. I figured they wouldn't leave that early, right? I sat down on a sofa in the hotel lobby and waited quietly. By around 8, they still hadn't come out, so I simply took out my tablet and stylus and started drawing. I still had several commissions to finish. By the time I completed one piece, it was already 10:30. I packed up my tablet and stood up to stretch. Just as I walked a few steps, 2 familiar figures came out of the elevator. They really could sleep. It was almost noon. Elias still looked half asleep, clinging to Veronica's arm, leaning on her bonelessly. "Vero, I want steak for lunch." His tone was soft and spoiled, full of childish charm. Veronica smirked. "Call me Auntie, and I'll take you." Elias widened his eyes and punched her lightly. "You pervert. So inappropriate." "Well, are you going to say it or not?" "Fine, I'll say it. What's there to be afraid of?" Elias lifted his chin and, in an exaggerated sweet voice, said, "Auntie, take me to eat steak, please." "Good boy." Veronica hadn't even finished speaking when she suddenly froze. She stared ahead, her whole body stiff like a statue. Chapter 20. Under her gaze, I walked slowly toward her with a smile. Veronica's expression shifted, from initial shock and panic to gradual composure. She let out a soft scoff and simply looked at me calmly. Elias clearly knew who I was. In his eyes, I saw panic and guilt. He hurried to remove his arm from around Veronica, but Veronica reached out and pressed down on his arm, stopping him, as if she had decided to go all in. She curled her lips and said in a teasing tone, "Well, looks like we've been found out. Shall we sit down and talk?" I said gently. "Talk about what?" "Divorce." "Divorce?" Veronica clenched her teeth. "You want a divorce? In this situation, do you think our marriage can continue?" I glanced at the boy beside her, who couldn't hide his barely suppressed excitement. "You're not in a hurry, but maybe someone else is." "Fine, let's talk now," Veronica snapped. Should I step aside?" Elias raised his chin, looking at Veronica. "Step aside for what?" Veronica pulled him closer. "This concerns your interests too, aren't you curious?" "The gentleman doesn't mind, right?" Elias narrowed his eyes at me. "Then join us. Let's keep it quick." Chapter 21. The 3 of us sat down on a sofa in the hotel lobby. I took out the prepared divorce agreement from my bag and handed it to Veronica. She glanced over it casually. "Hey, you even prepared this." "Came well prepared, didn't you?" "As for asset division, your company remains yours, but I'll take the majority of the savings and fixed assets. After all, you're the one at fault," I stated coldly. Veronica looked down at the agreement again, focusing on the asset distribution section. "So aside from my company, you're basically leaving me with nothing." She raised an eyebrow. "As expected of you, never willing to take a loss." Elias couldn't sit still anymore. "Why should he? Veronica earned the money in this household. What right do you have to take it?" "Because I'm her legal husband, and I have solid evidence of your affair. Not only that, I'll also reclaim every cent she spent on you. That's part of our shared marital property." "You?" Elias's face flushed red with anger. "Enough." Veronica suddenly stood up. "It's just a divorce, right? Fine, let's do it." She took out a pen and signed the agreement. I put the document away and smiled. "See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau Monday morning." As I reached the hotel entrance, I heard a loud crash behind me. Turning around, I saw the coffee table in front of the sofa had been kicked over by Veronica. She kicked it several more times in anger. Elias stood frozen beside her, too scared to move. I didn't bother with them anymore and walked away calmly. Chapter 22. At 9 o'clock Monday morning, I arrived at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau on time. 10 minutes later, Veronica showed up, holding Elias's hand. We queued together in silence, not exchanging a single word. Only Elias kept chattering nonstop. "Vero, how about we buy a place near the office? It'll be convenient to go to work together. I want to design and decorate the house myself. I've saved so many design ideas. And the bedroom, I want it in a gaming style. If you don't agree, I'll make you sleep on the couch." Veronica curled her lips. "Whatever you want." When it was our turn, everything went smoothly. After registering, we went our separate ways, each getting into our own car. All that remained was to return a month later to collect the final certificate. Chapter 23. Since we hadn't yet received the divorce certificate, I was worried something might go wrong midway, so I didn't delete Veronica's contact for the time being. Because of that, I kept seeing her frequently updated social media posts. Veronica had started riding motorcycles again. It seemed that during the years she was married to me, she had been suppressing herself. The moment we divorced, she immediately returned to her true nature. Veronica is 5 years younger than me. I'm almost 30. While she's still in the prime of youth, the age to have fun. Back then, motorcycles were her favorite thing. After we got together, I rode with her once. I couldn't stand the thrill of speeding like that. After that, no matter how much she begged, I refused to ride with her again. The way she raced terrified me. Every time she went racing with others, I would turn pale and break into a cold sweat. I was afraid something would happen to her. Not wanting me to worry, Veronica gradually gave up that hobby. She would only occasionally ride on suburban roads for fun and stopped racing competitively altogether. But now, her social media was filled every day with photos and videos of her racing. Carefree and exhilarated, it was obvious she was happy. Every time she rode, Elias sat behind her, his hair messy in the wind, arms tightly wrapped around her waist, his face flushed with excitement. They were about the same age, young, vibrant, reckless, free to play. He could keep up with her, indulge her, let her enjoy herself fully. Unlike me, who always held her back, Veronica and I, whether in age or personality, were never a good match. Maybe from the very beginning, us being together was a mistake. We belonged to two different worlds. We should never have forced ourselves to merge into one. As for her cheating, I did hate her for it. But now, more than anything, I just wanted the divorce to be finalized as soon as possible. To correct this mistake in time. And let my life return to normal. Chapter 24. A month later, I waited for Veronica at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. From 9 to 11, she never showed up. I called her countless times, she didn't answer a single one. At noon, I took a taxi straight to her company. The receptionist recognized me and didn't dare stop me. I went straight into Veronica's office. She and Valentina were discussing work. When she saw me, Valentina stood up. "You two talk. I'll step out." I didn't sit down. I asked directly, "Why didn't you come this morning?" "Come where?" she asked lazily. "The Civil Affairs Bureau." "Oh, was that today? Sorry, I forgot." "Stop pretending. I reminded you on WeChat yesterday." Veronica picked up her phone. "Sorry, I blocked you. Didn't see your message. Come with me now. We'll get it done this afternoon," I said concisely. "Can't. I have a meeting this afternoon." "Veronica, today. I have to get this done." Her expression darkened. "I said I'm not free today. I heard your company is about to launch a new product, and you're preparing for a presentation. Are you sure you want your cheating scandal exposed at a time like this?" I said calmly. "Augustine, you've really outdone yourself." Veronica let out a cold laugh, gritting her teeth. "Fine. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau now." We sat outside the bureau for over an hour until the staff returned from their lunch break. We were the first couple to go in that afternoon. When I finally got the divorce certificate, I felt a weight lift off my chest. A major matter resolved, my whole body felt lighter. In the parking lot, just as I was about to get into my car, Veronica walked up behind me. She sneered. "Now you got what you wanted," I replied. "Isn't this what you wanted?" Chapter 25. I opened the car door, got in, and was about to leave. Suddenly, Veronica rushed over, bent down, and leaned against the car window. With anger in her voice, she said, "I've wanted to divorce you for a long time. Augustine, do you even know how boring you are? You don't dare try anything even slightly exciting, afraid of this, afraid of that. You'd rather stay at home 24 hours a day." Turns out, when there's an age gap, there really is a generational gap. What's even more ridiculous is that you don't even have a temper. No matter what happens, you stay calm. Are you even normal? Even when I cheated, you still look so composed. Did you ever even love me? Do you know what it's like living with you? It's as bland as plain water. I've long had enough of this suffocating life. I like excitement. I like challenges. I like racing, and now I can finally enjoy it to the fullest. I thought that once I let go, I would be untouchable. But hearing someone I once loved attack me with such vicious words, a sharp pain stabbed through my heart again and again. I was still hurt. I still felt it. I couldn't understand why some people could be like this. Clearly the one who did wrong, yet feeling no guilt, no remorse, and instead attacking others with self-righteousness. Maybe, in love, constantly tolerating the other person, was my mistake. I raised my head and looked at Veronica seriously. Up until just now, I never once regretted marrying you. I chose to be with you because I truly fell for you, and I felt your love for me. Even when you changed and cheated, I accepted it calmly. I'm an adult. When I chose to marry someone 5 years younger than me, I should have considered all the risks that came with your age, personality, and temperament. I should bear the consequences of my own decisions. There's nothing to regret about that, but just now, I regretted it. I regret misjudging you, Veronica. I used to think you were just immature, playful, and hot-tempered, but now I realize, you lack morals, your character is flawed, and you're selfish and cowardly. You cheated. You were unfaithful to our marriage. You're the one who did wrong. Yet you refuse to face your mistakes. Instead, you turn around and blame me, forcing the failure of our marriage onto me, just so you can feel justified. I looked down on you. As the car drove away, in the rearview mirror, I saw Veronica's face, panicked and at a loss. Chapter 26. On the way home, while waiting at a red light, I realized that my face was already wet with tears, so I could still feel pain. Being attacked with such harsh words by someone I once loved. I didn't know how we had ended up like this. Back then, Veronica had chased after me so boldly and openly. That kind of passionate love, like a blazing fire, had surrounded me completely. It was the first time I had ever experienced such honest, unreserved love. Through Veronica, I came to understand that a person's feelings could be like a flood, arriving fast, and disappearing just as quickly. The first time I met Veronica, she was still an 18-year-old girl. At the time, I was in my first year of graduate school. Through a roommate's introduction, I took on a tutoring job. My roommate told me it was her neighbor's child, a senior in high school. She warned me that the girl had a rebellious personality and might be difficult to handle, telling me to think it through carefully. At that time, I wanted to buy a set of art supplies that I liked but were quite expensive. After hesitating for a while, I still decided to go. 18-year-old Veronica had bright red hair and a defiant look in her eyes. At first glance, it was obvious she had no intention of studying seriously. On the first day of tutoring, she spent the entire afternoon playing games. At the same time, I witnessed her furious, aggressive side as she argued loudly with someone online. When she finally finished playing, I picked up my notes and walked over. I just looked through your textbooks and past exams. Your foundation is quite weak, so we'll have to start from the basics of your first year. I've made a study plan for you, if we follow this. Wait, she interrupted, pointing at my notebook. In the middle of that intense argument just now, you still had the mood to write all this and make some kind of plan. I'm being paid by your family, so I should be responsible for you. Do you know how to curse at people? She suddenly asked. No. I shook my head honestly. A mischievous smile curved on her lips. How about this? Help me with one thing, and from now on I'll study properly with you. What is it? Log into my game account, call back the person I was arguing with just now, and scold them again. If you win, I'll listen to you. I can't. I don't know how to insult people. Then you can leave. Don't come back tomorrow. I can make her apologize to you. Would that work? I thought for a moment. She apologizes to me. Veronica's eyes lit up. That works. So I logged into the game and invited that person to join. When they came, before they could speak, I calmly and gently explained that insulting people in a game was wrong. After I finished a long explanation, the other side replied, "Who are you to that girl?" "I'm her brother." "Brother, can we play together sometime? If you apologize to her." "Sure, apologize." "Of course I'll apologize. Call our little sister over." Beside me, Veronica reluctantly accepted the apology. I winked at her. "A deal's a deal, from now on. You listen to me." She paused for a moment. "Okay." Chapter 27. From that moment on, Veronica really did listen to me obediently. She paid attention in every class I taught. In fact, she was quite a smart kid. Once she actually started studying, her progress was astonishing. During her final year of high school, her ranking climbed rapidly. By the last 2 months of the second semester, she had already stabilized within the top 50 in her grade. Her parents were very grateful to me and gave me a huge red envelope. After the college entrance exams, Veronica suddenly confessed her feelings to me. That completely caught me off guard. In my eyes, she was a younger sister, a kid, a student, never someone I could date. Facing my rejection, Veronica didn't seem surprised at all. She didn't take it to heart. With a tone full of determination, she said, "It's okay, I've got plenty of patience." On the day of university enrollment, I received a call from Veronica and only then found out she had applied to my university. She said with a grin, "Of course I worked hard just to get into your school, so I could chase you." I rejected Veronica countless times. From her freshman year to her junior year, she never gave up. I don't know when I started to fall for her. I only know that when I saw her puppy-like, pitiful eyes and her disappointed expression, I found it harder and harder to remain unmoved. After I started working, once, she traveled from another city where she was interning, standing downstairs in the pouring rain just to celebrate my birthday with me. At that moment, I was suddenly moved by her courage. So what if she was 5 years younger? What was there to be afraid of? At worst, it would just be a breakup, nothing I couldn't handle. That night, after blowing out the candles, I told Veronica, "Let's give it a try." She hugged me tightly, tears falling beside my ear. That was the first time I had ever seen her cry. Chapter 28. To be fair, when we were dating, Veronica was a good girlfriend. During her 6-month internship in another city, she took the high-speed train back to see me every weekend without fail. I told her she didn't have to come back every time, we could take turns. One week she would visit me. The next week I would go to her. She refused, saying she didn't want me to go through the trouble of traveling. "You've worked all week, just rest at home on the weekend." "I'm young. I can handle the exhaustion. How could I let you get tired?" I said that coming back every week was too frequent, that once every 2 weeks or even once a month would be enough. She disagreed even more, holding my face and saying, I miss you. I think about you every day. I only get to see you once a week, and you still want to take that away from me. That's so cruel. And so, during those 6 months apart, she came back every single week without missing a single time. She respected my preferences and kept my words in mind. I didn't like her racing, so she gradually gave it up. I didn't like her swearing, so she never used foul language in front of me again. I liked eating scallion oil noodles at an old shop. Later, when the owner planned to close the shop and return home, Veronica actually paid to learn the recipe from him and would often cook it for me. After her internship ended, she kept saying she would never go to another city again. The days apart from me were unbearable. Right after graduating from university, she couldn't wait to marry me. At that time, both of our families were against it. Both sides were reasonable. They didn't mind the 5-year age gap, but felt there was no need to marry so early. But Veronica refused to give up. She went to my parents again and again to talk to them, and also tried to persuade her own parents. During that time, I felt like she had truly matured. She actually managed to convince both families to agree to our marriage. At our wedding, the roommate who had introduced me to tutor Veronica once said, "If you two ever break up, I won't believe in love anymore. I'm sorry for shattering your belief in love." 3 years after our marriage, we got divorced. Chapter 29. After getting the divorce certificate, I decisively deleted all of Veronica's contact information. The house we had lived in after marriage was left to me, but I immediately contacted an agent to sell it. That place held too many traces of Veronica. I didn't want to live there anymore. It took me 3 days to pack up my things before I moved into a small apartment I had bought before marriage. And just like that, I began a new life on my own. After nights and nights of insomnia, I realized something wasn't right with me. I wanted to save myself, so I took the initiative to see a therapist. After listening to my story, the therapist concluded that Veronica's words had affected me more than I realized. The therapist told me, "You need to be more confident." What she said was just to shift the blame. "She's the one who cheated. You did nothing wrong." It felt like a sudden realization. So deep down, I had been affected by her words. I had subconsciously started wondering, was I really too dull, too boring, too uninteresting? Was that why I couldn't give her a sense of novelty, and why she cheated? But the therapist was right. Why was I blaming myself like this? Some people simply have a weak sense of morality and are never satisfied. Even if their partner were perfect, they would still cheat. Should we then blame the partner for being too perfect, for making them feel insecure, for putting pressure on them, forcing them to cheat? People who make mistakes will always find excuses for themselves. That's right, I did nothing wrong. My calm personality, emotional stability, tolerance, and restraint, these are all strengths. They are not things I should question about myself. I deserve someone better. Chapter 30. After seeing the therapist, I was finally able to sleep through the night again. One evening, as I was about to go to bed, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I still answered it. "Hello." There was silence on the other end. I immediately knew who it was. I hung up right away. A week later, I received a call from Valentina. She hesitated before telling me that Veronica was getting engaged to Elias and invited me to attend. I don't think there's any need for me to stay in contact with her anymore. After saying that, I blocked Valentina's number as well. One evening, as I returned home from the supermarket, I saw a figure crouching by the entrance. I was startled and was about to turn and leave when a familiar voice sounded behind me. "Augustine, it's me." I slowly turned around. "What are you doing here?" "I got engaged today." "Oh, then I wish you happiness." Veronica's voice was hoarse. "Augustine, do you not want me anymore?" I couldn't understand. How could she still ask something like that after everything that had happened? "We're already divorced. Who you choose to be with is your freedom." As I opened the door, she hurried over and grabbed my hand. "I didn't get engaged to Elias. I lied to you. After divorcing you, I made him leave the company, and I haven't seen him since. I asked Valentina to tell you about the engagement today. I just wanted to see if you would come. I waited the whole day, but you didn't come." "Augustine, do you really not want me anymore?" "You're being absurd. I can't understand your way of thinking," I said with a cold laugh. "You cheated. You betrayed our marriage. Why are you acting like the abandoned victim? You chose to end this relationship." "I didn't." She shook her head desperately. "I didn't want things to be like this." "You mean, you cheated, but still wanted to keep our marriage? You know my personality. I don't tolerate betrayal. The moment you crossed that line, you should have known the outcome. I just thought it was something new, something fun. I never intended to stay with Elias forever." "You're so kind. You said you would forgive me no matter what mistake I made." "I may have a good temper, but I also have boundaries." "Veronica, you can't take advantage of my tolerance and push me endlessly. Do you know what your words did to me?" I started doubting myself. I developed psychological issues. I couldn't sleep at night. "The damage you caused me, I cannot forgive it." I didn't know. Veronica looked at me, lost and confused. I shook off her hand. walked inside, and slammed the door shut behind me. Chapter 31. Half a month later, Veronica's mother, my former mother-in-law, called me. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered. She had always treated me well and was a reasonable person, a good mother-in-law. Walter, I know I shouldn't be bothering you now, but please understand a mother's concern for her child. Could you come to the hospital and see Veronica? The hospital? What happened to her? She was in a car accident. Her injuries are serious, but she refuses to cooperate with treatment. I thought for a long moment. All right. Outside the hospital room, I could already hear shouting from inside. Get out. Leave me alone. I deserve this. I pushed the door open, and a pillow flew straight at me. I caught it midair. Augustine. Veronica looked over in surprise. Then her expression changed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw it at you. I thought it was someone else. I glanced around the messy room and pulled over a chair to sit down. Someone else? Who? Your parents, your friends, or your employees? You once asked me why I always have such a good temper and never lose it. Back then, I didn't tell you the truth out of consideration for you, but now I can. Because I'm an adult, a mature one. Losing your temper doesn't solve anything, in my view. People who explode emotionally at every turn only reveal their own immaturity and incompetence. Veronica leaned against the hospital bed, looking lost. I understand now, you're right. It's my fault. I shouldn't lose my temper. Augustine, you don't like it when I get angry. I'll change. How did the accident happen? I asked. She lowered her head like a child who had done something wrong and confessed honestly. Today, while I was driving, someone behind me kept trying to overtake. I got annoyed, so I pushed back. I cut them off twice, and when I was turning, I didn't notice another car coming from the side, and we crashed. Don't you think that's absurd? You're 25, not a rebellious teenager, acting on impulse on the road, disregarding your own life and others. Do you think that's cool? I don't know why I got so impulsive at the time. Augustine, if you had been in the car with me, this never would have happened. Think about it. After we got together, did I ever do something so reckless? Veronica looked at me with sorrow. Only after the divorce did I realize, when I'm with you, my temper becomes better. You're always so gentle, calm, and steady, like a spring breeze that makes people feel at ease. No matter how angry or irritable I am, the moment I see you, all that anger disappears. She drifted into memory. I remember the first day I met you. I had been arguing with someone in a game and was in a terrible mood. Then I saw you, seriously explaining to that person not to use foul language. Your gentle eyes, the dimples on your cheeks, that faint smile, it was like you had some kind of magic that could calm people down. Not just the person in the game, even I was soothed by you. At that moment, I decided, I couldn't drive this tutor away. I wanted to keep you, because I liked the way it felt to be around you. Chapter 32. I smiled faintly. Do you still remember what you said when we divorced? You said I was boring, that you had long been fed up with being with me. You also said living with me was like plain water, bland and tasteless. Veronica's face turned pale instantly. She shook her head in panic. I'm sorry, Augustine. That was all lies. I was just angry back then. I was being stubborn, trying to save face. Tears slowly slid down from the corners of her eyes. Sometimes, because of my ridiculous pride, I can't help but say things I don't mean. Those weren't my true feelings at all. How could I not like being with you? How could I ever get tired of you? From the first moment I met you, I liked the feeling of being around you. During my internship in college, those months we were apart felt endless without you by my side. Every single day felt like torment. After we divorced, I didn't even dare go home anymore. Walking into that empty house, it felt like there was a hole in my chest, with cold wind blowing straight through it. I was afraid of that loneliness, so I wandered outside every day. Only when I hid myself in crowds did I feel a little safer. I let out a soft scoff. Funny, when we were married, you didn't seem to enjoy staying home that much. Weren't you busy lying to me, making time to go see your cute little boy? Veronica smiled bitterly. I was foolish. We were together every single day for years, never apart. It made me forget what it felt like to be without you, and I took your importance for granted. You were like air to me, low-key, but essential. Only after losing you did I realize, without you, I can't live at all. There's no such thing as someone who can't live without another, I said, already losing patience with her confession as I stood up. Adults have to take responsibility for their decisions. Veronica, stop being willful. You still have parents who care about you. Don't make them worry. As I reached the door, Veronica shouted. Fine, I promise you, I'll become mature, rational, I'll become the person you like. I didn't turn back. I walked away. Chapter 33. After Veronica recovered, she began appearing in my life frequently. Since I didn't have to go to an office, I didn't go out much, but I kept a regular routine. Every morning at 6:30, I went for a run. By the riverside where I usually ran, Veronica often showed up. She didn't approach or disturb me, just jogged behind me at a steady pace. That way, I had no reason to confront her. I could only pretend not to notice. One morning, while I was running, I saw an elderly woman walking slowly ahead. She coughed, took out a tissue from her pocket, and wiped her nose. At that moment, a pink bill slipped out of her pocket. If I wasn't mistaken, it was 100 yuan. The old woman didn't notice and kept walking. I was about to run up and call out to her when suddenly a young woman rushed over, picked up the money, and stuffed it into her own pocket. "Hey, that money isn't yours," I shouted. The old woman turned around at the sound. "Grandma, you dropped 100 yuan just now." "She picked it up," I said, pointing at the young woman. Then I turned to her. "Give it back." The old woman touched her pocket, her face full of panic. "My money is gone." The young woman shrugged innocently. "I didn't pick up anyone else's money. That's mine. I dropped it and picked it up. What's the problem?" "All right, you can tell that to the police later," I said, taking out my phone to call them. Her expression changed instantly. She reached out to grab my phone. "Let's see who dares to call the police." At that moment, an arm reached out from the side and blocked her. Veronica looked down at me. "Are you okay?" I shook my head. "Damn it, who the hell are you to interfere?" The woman was about to lash out, but when she saw Veronica, half a head taller than her, she froze mid-motion. "Bad luck." She shook her arm and tried to leave. "Stop." Veronica stepped in front of her. "Give the money back." "Are you crazy? It's not even your money." "I'm not giving it." The woman spewed a string of insults. Veronica grabbed her arm and restrained her, leaving her unable to move. Then she turned to me. "Call the police." "I was wrong. I'll give it back." "Okay." The woman pleaded quickly. Veronica released her. She took the 100 yuan out of her pocket, handed it to the old woman, and ran off immediately. After thanking us repeatedly, the old woman also left. Veronica looked at me gently. "Did I scare you?" I looked at her curiously. "You've changed. You've become more mature than before." She smiled lightly. "Have I?" I nodded. "Before, in a situation like that, you would have punched her right away. Now you actually held back and didn't hit her. Not bad." "I remembered what you said. I won't be impulsive anymore." She looked at me. "Augustine, I said I would become the person you like. It's all in the past." I looked into the distance. "Veronica, we should both move forward." Chapter 34. Veronica seemed serious about getting back together with me. I would run into her even when I went out for breakfast. Once, I lingered a moment longer over some cherries at a fruit shop, and later that day, an entire box of cherries was delivered to my door. Her behavior had already started to trouble me. To put an end to it, I decided to go traveling. As a freelancer, I could leave whenever I wanted. Veronica, on the other hand, couldn't. She had work and a company to run. Finally, I could get away from her. I let out a deep breath of relief. Wandering freely across the country's beautiful landscapes, I felt my whole mind open up. When I arrived in Dali, I ran into a familiar face, my former therapist, Nina. After a brief conversation, we realized that our itineraries for the next few days overlapped, so we decided to travel together. Over the following days, we got along extremely well. I discovered that our personalities were very similar. She told me she was also gentle by nature and rarely ever lost her temper. I asked her why she was so emotionally stable. She said that since childhood, she had always been like this. Nothing ever seemed like a big deal to her. Nothing worth getting angry over. If it can be solved, then solve it. If it can't, getting angry won't help anyway, she said. I laughed. What a coincidence. I think the same way. Being with Nina felt harmonious and comfortable. There was an unspoken understanding between us, just a glance, and she would know what I meant. Often, a shared smile was enough for us to understand each other completely. When it was time to leave Dali, I found myself feeling reluctant. At the airport, I felt unsettled, my thoughts in disarray, unable to calm down. But when I turned around and saw a familiar figure, my mood instantly brightened. Nina walked toward me with a smile. I changed my plans. I'll travel with you from here on, do you mind? I nodded repeatedly. Chapter 35. The day before my wedding with Nina, Veronica came to see me. Does she treat you well? Her eyes were red. Yeah, very well. We're well matched, both emotionally stable. We probably won't even argue in the future, I said with a smile. Veronica forced a smile that looked worse than crying. I only realize now, one wrong step leads to more wrong steps. Once you take the wrong path, there's no going back. I sighed softly. I was able to move on. You will too. She shook her head. No. I won't. Veronica, our personalities were never compatible. Water and fire can't be forced together. I can change. I can become emotionally stable, mature, rational. Let it go. I believe you'll meet someone who truly suits you. Someone who appreciates your temperament and loves all your strengths and flaws. That day will come. Veronica nodded silently. I wish you happiness. As she left, Nina walked over holding a bouquet of sunflowers. Shall we have paella tonight? Sure. I smiled and nodded. Why sunflowers? I passed by a flower shop and saw this bouquet. It was so bright, just like my mood, so I bought it. So, not for me, I pretended to hide my smile. Tomorrow you'll be surrounded by red roses. Don't be so greedy, my handsome groom.